Hello and welcome to Marble Rundown, your source for the most important marble news of the week that you need to know. Now here's your hosts, Bob Ballmer and Dan Orboole.
Hey everyone, you're watching TMR, and this is Marble Rundown. I'm Bob, he's Dan, and we've got a great show for you today.
Absolutely, Bob. You can really feel the tension growing as we near the end of the Marble League season. It's a tight race at the top. You really feel like first place could be anyone's for the taking right now.
Without a doubt, Dan, though certainly you don't mean just anyone.
Slow down there, Bob. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time later to poke fun at Mellow Yellow. Why don't you kick us off by bringing us up to speed on what happened this week in the Marble League?
If you insist. Sunday featured the debut of the Black Hole Funnel, a completely new event to the Marble League. And wow, teams were certainly eager to make a big first impression. The Savage Speeders, Crazy Cat's Eyes, and Green Ducks held the top 3 spots after the first set of heats. Both the Savage Speeders and Crazy Cat's Eyes would ride that first round success, putting in fairly average runs in the second round. Now this marks the first gold of the season for the Speeders, who boost themselves up to 5th place overall with the win. The Midnight Wisps, who placed 4th after the first heats, aced their next run, not only notching the best time of the second heats, but also earning themselves the silver. The O-Rangers assumed first place in the overall standings, primarily due to the last place finish by the Minty Maniacs. After the event, a mere 15 points divided the first place O-Rangers from the 5th place Speeders. All in all, a pretty significant event for a number of teams. What did you think, Dan?
Oh, definitely. In fact, let's take a look at some important moments in the event. So first look at Red Eye here, hanging in with 33.15 seconds of funnel time. This is a fantastic score for the first official Black Hole Funnel event in Marble League history, and it's going to set a solid record for future athletes to try and compete against.
Definitely, Red Eye's push was a major contributor to the Crazy Cat's Eyes 3rd place finish in this event.
You know, Bob, some fans have mentioned that they feel like the Black Hole Funnel wasn't a very exciting spectator experience, that it was hard to follow.
Yep, Dan, and I get that. You know, the marbles are really moving really fast in a tight radius. It's a blur.
Right, but we've got to remember, the goal of the Black Hole Funnel is not to look pretty. It's about giving these top-tier athletes the chance to prove that they've got the composure and coordination to get the job done. Even though we can't see it all, there are still definitely interesting things going on there. So let's go back to that clip. We'll slow it down and take a look at what I think was some of the best coordination on display. It's Team Momo's unorthodox blink-and-you'll-miss-it strategy. Watch how Captain Momo settles into a nice, regular, circular path around the middle, while his teammate Mo arcs up and then, bam! Look at that angle of attack. It's an aggressively elliptical orbit as Mo comes barreling back down in an attempt to knock down some of the opponent marbles.
Wow, that's definitely something we didn't see from a lot of teams. Did it pay off?
Well, Bob, what you have to remember is this is a new event. These teams don't have a lot of practice with the huge funnel. We haven't had a chance to see these different strategies in action, and coaches don't know yet what works and what doesn't. So while everybody else is playing it safe and defensive, Team Momo opts to come out with a risk and comes with a very aggressive strategy. This makes sense in a lot of other speed-based events, but it does actually hurt them here. They go on to finish 3rd in this heat. We actually went over why this strategy doesn't always pan out in this week's episode of the Marble Report.
Ah, so a risky gambit from Coach Momo that ultimately didn't work out. But you can't blame him entirely. With where Team Momo sits in the standings, they needed to take some risks to have a chance of getting back in the running.
Exactly, Bob. And it's these sort of gambles that make the Marble League such a joy to watch down the final stretch. What do you have for us next?
Thursday was the 12th event of this year's Marble League, the always exciting relay run. Let's take a look at the highlights. Right out of the gates, we had the opportunity to witness history being made, with the Oceanics executing a sensational run. Good for a new Marble League record. But that wouldn't be the only record break. Heat 3 had all 4 teams go under the previous record set by the Oceanics in that first heat. Of course, it was the O-Rangers still snagging the victory there, and the new Marble League record, with a sensational sub-8 second time. In the thick of it all, the Savage Speeders quietly edged out just 2nd place finishes in Heat 1 and their semifinal. In the final, though, the hashtag #SpeedIsKeyGang put together a come-from-behind victory. I can only imagine what this week must mean to this Speeders team, and I am genuinely curious to see how Coach quickly refocuses his team after this week's stunning performances. Rounding out our highlights, though, are the O-Rangers maintaining their lead over the Oceanics in the final by just 0.02 of a second. While the Oceanics are happy with their bronze medal, and I'm sure the O-Rangers are at least satisfied with their silver, if I'm the O-Rangers sitting in first overall, I'm definitely starting to feel the heat of the Savage Speeders and their momentous performances this week. Anyways, Event 12 was certainly terrific for some, terrible for others, and tantalizing for all. What do you make of it all, Dan?
Well, this event definitely had a huge impact on the standings, but I really think there's some interesting things to look at from some of these performances on a technical level.
Whatever you'd rather, Dan. Though, when we talked about the Black Hole Funnel event, you showed us how risky strategies can go wrong. Why don't we take a look at some stellar execution of strategy here in the final?
Certainly. Let's look at the footage. Okay, great. So here we have Heat 4 in the relay. Look here as the Savage Speeders start from behind and build up momentum through handoffs to overtake the O-Rangers and win it all in classic Speeder fashion. Now, this here is what all our young marbles dreaming about representing their home in the Marble League one day, this is what they need to be watching.
From an execution standpoint, what are they doing right here, Dan?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Bob. They're building off of each other, and most importantly, they're not looking around. It can be hard to come from behind when you're down to a team like the O-Rangers. Everything about the O-Rangers organization screams professionalism and military-like precision. So looking up and seeing an orange flash in front of you can be quite daunting and disheartening. The Speeders handle this perfectly through focusing on their fundamentals and nailing things like accelerating through the handoff and attacking on the finish line. And you know, it pays off. They're able to pull off a spectacular victory here, Bob.
I hate to go back on what I said about talking about good strategies, but I'm curious. How did the O-Rangers lose this lead?
Well, okay, hold on now, Bob. I don't think this lead was the O-Rangers to lose as much as it was the Savage Speeders to win. We've been following the career of Velocity, the anchor leg of the Savage Speeders, and this kid's got heart. He doesn't have as much natural skills as some of his teammates, but has always made up for it with effort. He was dropped to alternate this year and has at times struggled to figure out what his place on the squad is. Simply put, Velocity has been all speed and no direction. But with recent performances, he really does seem to be finding his stride.
Thanks for that great insight, Dan. It's important to remember that even though these are highly trained athletes, they're all still marbles at the end of the day, like you and me. For today's team spotlight, who else can we really consider but the Savage Speeders?
Oh, it has to be them, Bob. A week ago, no one was talking about this team. But with these 2 gold medals, they've propelled themselves into title contention, 2nd place overall. No one thought they would be in this position a week ago.
And what do you think accounts for the sudden change in performance?
Honestly, I don't think there's a ton that's different. The Savage Speeders have always been a team with great fundamentals, and almost never find themselves in the bottom half of an event. The problem all year has just been finding that final bit of energy for the last push necessary to earn the top spot in an event. And they found that this week. The Speeders have always been consistent performers, and a lot of the credit for that really has to go to Coach Quickly, who's been a stable presence for the team despite the reserve member change-up this year. The athletes often say what a great presence he has in the locker room, and accredit their ability to stay focused on the end goal entirely to his coaching style.
And the results speak for themselves. 22 medals over 5 years in the league is a really remarkable track record. For you viewers at home, stay where you are, and we'll be right back with a deep dive into one of our favorite runs from the relay event, as well as our predictions for the next batch of Marble League events. Stay tuned. You're watching Marble Rundown on TMR. Well, we are back with a segment we're calling Deep Dive. Dan's going to be putting on his strategy cap again, and I'll be wearing my goggles. Let's go deep diving here.
Bob, you know that people come to us for legitimate news and analysis, right?
Oh, Dan, are you not entertained?
let's get to the action. Here's Heat 4 of the relay race. Look at the Wisps here in Lane 1, but watch closely as we go into the final handoff. Right there, disaster strikes for the Midnight Wisps as the Waspy-Wispy connection flounders, and the Raspberry Racers and the Hornets are able to pass the wobbling Wispy on the straightaway.
You know, Dan, I can't help but think this was just sloppiness on the part of Wispy. So much for the hashtag Will of the Wisps. From first to third, just like that.
I can see how it looks like that at first glance here, Bob. But this is just a strategy gone horribly wrong. You've got to remember that this is a qualifying heat. It doesn't help to win by a huge margin here unless you're chasing records. Something that isn't mentioned enough in the relay is the penchant for anchor leg athletes to overexert themselves in the straightaway after coming off a jarring handoff and hurtling into the wall in the finishing zone. We don't talk about injuries or overexhaustion a lot in this event, but teams with commanding leads would be wise to, and have been known to, ease up in the heats on the final leg to prevent an early injury.
Very interesting, Dan. So you're saying a conservative and preserving strategy actually cost the Wisps a semifinal berth here.
Exactly, Bob. And another aspect to consider is how coaches choose to stack their athletes.
Wait, slow down. Stack? What are you referring to?
Okay, well, stacking is the relative ordering of athletes. Who is the leadoff, who runs the intermediate legs, and who runs the anchor.
Oh, I see. It seems that logically you'd want your fastest and lightest athlete to run the anchor, and maybe your strongest model to run the leadoff leg. Is that right?
Well, you'd make a great rec league coach, Bob, but at this level it does get a little more complicated than that. Coaches have to weigh a number of factors, so let's put them up on the screen. As you can see, Bob, the old adage holds true. Coaching is all about selecting the right person for the right job.
Wise words, Dan. Golly, I learned so much from you. Here I thought coaching was just a city in India.
You know, Bob, how much time do you dedicate to researching these terrible puns just to make me suffer?
You heard it here, folks. Anyway, that's all for the deep dive. Let's go to a segment we're calling Crystal Ball, where we make predictions for next week's events. Can't wait to hear what Does What He Can Dan has keyed up for us.
Just introduce the first event.
So the high jump is back for the first time since 2017. So this isn't necessarily an event that the whole field really has a lot of experience with. Who do you like for this one, Dan?
Well, Bob, if you were going to go purely off past performances, you'd be hard-pressed to not give at least some consideration to Mellow Yellow. I mean, they won the gold back in 2017, and that's not something to be taken lightly. But the Mellow Yellow team we've seen this year definitely isn't the same team that took third overall in the league back in that year. And for that reason, I'm putting my money on the O-Rangers. They're currently the best team in the league, took second place in the high jump in 2017, and are really riding high off the successes of the past few weeks.
Oh, the O-Rangers, huh? Really bold pick there. Really thinking outside the box on that one.
What can I say, Bob? The results speak for themselves.
Well, I'm going to take a different approach to this. So hear me out. The Balls of Chaos.
Balls of Chaos? Surely you can't be serious. They finished near the bottom of the table in nearly every event so far this year.
Oh, I'm dead serious. And don't you dare call me Shirley. Their only medal this year also came from a jumping-based event in the long jump. And you know the team's been itching for something to help them return from this year's league with their heads held high.
But that's ridiculous, Bob. You can't just equate long jump successes with high jump success. The team didn't even qualify the last time they ran this event. They take an entirely different skill set and mental preparedness. And that long jump medal was absolutely a fluke. They failed to do anything remarkable since then.
Look, Dan, Coach Disarray has taken the team a long ways from when he joined the team for 2018. And we're at a point in the season where teams are starting to take big risks for higher finishes. We saw that from Team Momo in the black hole funnel. You watch. When the Balls of Chaos medal in the high jump this week, I'll be here waiting for your apology.
We'll see.
But we've also got to look ahead to the aquathlon, a brand new event this year that we really know nothing about. So Dan, if you're so clever, why don't you be the first to speculate wildly about what this event might hold?
Well, Bob, without much knowledge, all we can reliably count on is the Oceanics doing poorly. I know it's an easy shot to take, but their consistency over the past few years in water events is legendary. I'm ready to be proven wrong, but you can't deny that they've got a track record.
There's no doubt about that, Dan. Next, let's see what the fans have to say about the events of the past week. Here's a segment we call
From the Fans.
The fans are rocking after last week's events. Let's take a look at what they've been talking about. Here's Eric drawing attention to the speeder's techniques. Eric's keen eye for details didn't go unnoticed by us here at the Rundown.
That's right, Bob. The use of spin, and backspin in particular, has quite a few ramifications for stability and shows off a marble's mastery of an event. It's a fancy maneuver that some teams do view as showboating.
Interesting, Dan. I'd really like to get into that, but we've got to keep moving here. Here's what Dr. Dan Thrax had to say about their favorite teams.
I feel for the Maniacs here, Bob. Hang in there, Maniac fans. When you go all or nothing like the Maniacs have been known to do this year, you can sometimes, to put it lightly, come up short.
Do you want to be featured in the next episode of Marble Rundown? Leave a comment on this video telling us what you think of the show.
Yes, and don't forget to answer today's question of the day. Do you think the Savage Speeders are for real, or that they've just had a few lucky events? We'll feature some of your responses in next week's show.
And that's all for today. From me, Dan, and the rest of the crew here at Marble Rundown, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to the Marble Report if you haven't already, and we'll see you here next week, same time, same place, right here on TMR.
So long, everyone.